You're listening to In-Depth SEO. In-depth conversations on how search, content, and AI really work.
Hello and welcome to SEO Deep Dive by Indepth SEO. I'm Mark.
And I'm Sarah.
You know, usually when we sit down to prep for one of these deep dives, I feel like I have a pretty solid grip on where the lines are.
The boundaries.
Yeah. You know, you have the good stuff over here, the quality, the human-made analysis, the content that actually has a pulse.
And then the other stuff.
And then you have the spam, the junk, the stuff your brain just glides right over it.
The signal and the noise, a clear separation.
Exactly. But this week, I mean, honestly, reading through this mountain of research we have on AI-generated content, that line just felt like it was dissolving in front of my eyes.
It feels like the ground is shifting.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's not just that the tech is getting better, which it is, but the sheer volume of it. It feels like it's changing the fundamental physics of the internet itself.
It is, and it's not a gut feeling anymore, you know? It's becoming quantifiable. We're seeing data points now that just a year ago were pure hypothesis.
It is quantifiable. And we're about to get to a statistic that, and I'm not being dramatic here, it actually made me put my coffee down and just stare at the wall for a good minute.
Oh, the coffee drop moment. I know those.
It was a full-on coffee drop moment.
Yeah.
But before we get there, let's just frame this for everyone. Today, we are tackling the machine in the room. We're talking about the massive, just overwhelming scale of AI-generated content AGC and what it's doing to the web, to marketing, to our jobs in SEO, and frankly, to our sanity.
And we're asking the big question here. Is this the dawn of some kind of creative utopia where a writer's block is finally dead and productivity just skyrockets? Or are we walking into what some of the researchers are calling the dark forest?
The dark forest. I love that term. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi novel.
It does.
But it's also a terrifyingly accurate description of where the web might be heading. And we're going to spend a good chunk of time unpacking that later on. But let's start with the reality check. Because for the past couple of years, this has been the topic. Every marketing meeting, every Slack channel, every conference.
Every Thanksgiving dinner argument.
Oh, exactly. Is the robot going to take my job? But we've mostly been talking about it in terms of, potential. Oh, look what this could do.
Right, the hypothetical.
What really jumped out at me from the sources for today is that we're past the potential phase.
Yeah.
We're not talking about could anymore.
Yeah.
We are deep in the reality phase now.
We are. And here's that stat you were talking about. It comes from a study that's been tracking web output. And it claims that as of November 2024, we officially crossed the Rubicon.
Okay, lay it on us.
The sheer quantity of new AI-generated articles being published on the open web has now officially surpassed the quantity of new human-written articles.
Let that sink in for a second. More machine text being published than human text.
In terms of new daily output, yes. Now, to be fair to the data, that growth curve has plateaued a little since around May of 2024. It's not an infinite vertical climb.
Okay, that's something, I guess.
But the line was crossed. The internet, the place we used to think of as this grand library of human knowledge, is now, in terms of new additions, predominantly a library of synthetic text.
That's a wild thought. It's like we built this incredible library and then we just unleashed 1 million Xerox machines inside.
Yeah.
And they're all just photocopying pages, cutting them up and pasting them back together in slightly new orders at, lightning speed.
That's a terrifyingly good analogy. And it brings us right to the central tension of this whole deep dive. Because if you're listening to this, if you're an SEO professional, a content marketer, maybe just someone trying to figure out why your Google results look so strange lately, you have a choice to make.
Right. You can look at that data and say, great, productivity. I can publish 500 articles a day. My niche is toast.
Which is, spoiler alert, a trap.
A huge trap. We'll get to why. Or you can look at this and see the dark forest, this hostile, overgrown place that's just filled with what everyone's calling slop.
Slop. That is the word of the year, isn't it? Just low-quality synthetic noise.
It is. So here's our roadmap for this deep dive. We're going to break this down piece by piece. First, we need to strip away the hype. We need to define exactly how these things work.
LLMs and JANs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't mean the marketing version. I mean what is actually happening under the hood.
Because if you don't understand the mechanism, you can't use the tool properly. You'll fall into those traps.
Precisely. Then we're going to look at the business case. Because for all the doom and gloom, there are companies doing genuinely incredible, high-value things. We're talking Mattel, Coca-Cola.
And ClickUp. We have to talk about the ClickUp SEO case study. It's fascinating because they seem to have found a way to thread that needle between volume and real quality.
But then we have to turn the coin over.
Well,
We have to look at the horror stories, the content farms, the fake AI doctors, the stuff that keeps trust and safety teams up at night. This is where we see the real slop.
the dark underbelly.
And finally, we'll land on the so what for all of us.
Yeah.
What does this actually mean for SEO? Will Google punish you? What on earth is answer engine optimization? And how do you survive as a human creator in a world that is flooding with synthetic content?
It's a lot to get through.
It is. So let's start at the very foundation. When we say AI content or AIGC, what are we actually talking about? Because I think for a lot of people, it's just a magic box. You type in a prompt, the box thinks about it, and then it spits out an answer.
Right. And that word thinking, that's the single biggest misconception we have to get rid of.
Okay.
So let's be crystal clear. These models do not think. They do not know things. They don't have a concept of truth or falsehood.
So what are they doing then, if not thinking?
They are predicting, at its absolute core, an LLM, a large language model like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, you name it, is a prediction engine.
Prediction engine, okay.
It relies on something called natural language processing, or NLP. It has ingested a massive, frankly incomprehensible percentage of the public internet, books, articles, blogs, forums, the whole thing. And it has broken all of that text down into mathematical representations called tokens.
Tokens. Now, that's a key technical term. We're not just talking about whole words, are we?
Not always, no. A token can be a word like cat. It can be part of a word like cat, and then pillar. It can even be a space or a punctuation mark.
Got it.
The model then analyzes the statistical relationship between all of these tokens. It learns that if the token Z appears and it's followed by cat, then sat, then on, then the, well, there's a very, very high statistical probability, a high weight, that the very next token should be Matt.
So it's like the world's most expensive, energy-intensive game of Family Feud. Survey says, Matt.
That's not a bad way to think about it, actually. It's calculating probability. It isn't picturing a cat in its mind. It has no sensory experience of a mat.
It doesn't know what a mat feels like.
No, it just knows that in the billions of parameters of its training data, those mathematical vectors, they all align in a way that points to Matt. It's purely a mathematical operation.
This explains the confidence problem, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I've seen this a million times. I'll ask it something that is just flat out wrong, like to write a biography of a person who doesn't even exist.
And what does it do?
It answers with the swagger of a tenured professor.
Yeah.
It just makes it all up, but it sounds completely authoritative.
Exactly. Because it's not predicting the fact. It's predicting the structure of a factual statement. It knows what a sentence that conveys authority looks like. It's mastered the syntax of confidence.
But it has no actual concept of true or false.
It only has probable and improbable, and sometimes the most probable sounding answer is a complete fabrication.
That is such a crucial distinction for anyone using these tools. You are not talking to a database of facts. You are talking to a probability engine that is hallucinating what it thinks is a plausible sounding response.
Hallucination isn't even a bug, really. It's a core feature of how the system works. It's always generating text that should exist based on the patterns it's seen. When it gets it right, we call it intelligence.
Then when it gets it wrong,
we call it a hallucination, but the underlying mechanism is identical in both cases.
okay, so that covers LLMs, the text side of things.
Yeah.
But the deep dive materials also spend a lot of time on JANs. This seems to be where the visual magic happens, the images, the videos, the deep fakes.
Right. Generative adversarial networks. This is a totally different beast. And the architecture here is, I think, just fascinating because it's built on conflict. It's adversarial.
A conflict between what? Or who?
Between two neural networks inside the same system. So imagine you have two AIs in a locked room.
Okay.
One is a master forger, that's the generator network. The other is a master art critic. That's the discriminator network.
The forger and the critic. I like this.
The forger's job is to create a painting of, say, a human face. It just throws some digital paint at the canvas and shows it to the critic.
And the critic has seen millions of real faces in its training data.
Millions! So it looks at the forger's first attempt and says, nope, that's a fake. The nose is weird. The lighting is impossible. The eyes are uneven. Try again. Very harsh. So the forger goes back, adjusts its technique, and tries again. And again. and again, millions and millions of times. And every single time the critic points out a flaw, the forger learns, okay, pupils need to be perfectly round. Okay, skin has pores and texture.
So it's a constant feedback loop.
An incredibly fast one. Eventually, the forger gets so good that the critic, who, remember, is an expert, literally cannot tell the difference between the forgery and a real photograph. It's fooled.
And that's the moment the AI shows the image to us.
Correct. We only ever see the final result of that million-round boxing match. That's how we get those mid-journey images that are so hyper-realistic they're winning photography contests.
Or the deepfakes that look and sound exactly like world leaders.
That's the mechanism.
And the scope of this is just, it's exploding. We aren't just talking about blog posts anymore. We're seeing daily style art. We're seeing realistic photos, animations, voice synthesis like WaveNet that can clone a human narrator.
Even music composition.
It's all just outputs from these systems. You know, it's interesting. One of the sources we looked at compared modern LLMs to the old content spinners from the 2011 era of SEO.
Oh, the dark ages. I remember those.
Right. You'd feed it a Wikipedia article, hit a button, and it would just swap out words with synonyms.
So the car stopped at the red light becomes the automobile halted at the crimson illuminator.
Exactly. Total nonsense, but technically unique content.
And the argument in the research is that LLMs are basically just hyper-advanced, incredibly sophisticated content spinners. They're remixing the vast library of existing human knowledge.
Bang it into new variations.
But they aren't necessarily creating new wisdom. They aren't adding net new lived experience to the pool.
That's a really humbling way to look at it.
Yeah.
We've basically built a supercomputer that is a very, very eloquent parrot. But, and this is the big pivot, even a parrot can be incredibly useful if you train it right. Because despite all this healthy skepticism, the business case for this technology is, well, it's massive.
It's undeniable. We can't just be cynical about it. There's a reason the data shows 67% of marketing professionals are already using these tools.
It's the efficiency.
The efficiency gains are just simple math. A human might take, 1 to 6 hours to fully research, draft, edit, and polish a decent piece of content.
At least.
An AI can produce a workable first draft in seconds.
And it's not just about replacing the human, right?
Yeah.
The sources keep coming back to this idea of the creative co-pilot. It's about acceleration, not replacement.
Right. It's the difference between walking to your destination and driving. You are still steering, you're still in control, but you are getting there so much faster. For example, look at Mattel. This is one of my favorite case studies from the research.
This is the Hot Wheels example, right?
Yes. So think about the traditional design process for a Hot Wheels car. You have a designer, they're at a drafting table, they sketch an idea, maybe they do a 3D render. It takes time.
A lot of time.
So if they want to see a variation like, what if this car had 6 wheels instead of 4? They have to go back and draw it all over again.
So the cost of experimentation is really high.
Yeah.
Every new idea costs hours and hours of skilled labor.
Exactly. So Mattel plugged DALL-E 2 directly into this workflow. Now, the designer doesn't just sketch, they prompt. They say, show me a Hot Wheels car that looks like a dragon, or show me a futuristic race car inspired by 1980s cyberpunk. And boom, instantly 4 visual concepts appear.
Wow.
Okay, now make it red. Boom, 4 more. Now give it giant wings. Boom.
That is huge. It completely changes the top of the creative funnel. You're not replacing the designer's taste or their expertise. You're giving them a superpower to see 50 variations of their idea before lunch.
Precisely. It allowed their team to iterate through hundreds of visual concepts instantly before they ever had to commit real-world resources to building a physical prototype. That is a high-value, intelligent use of AI.
It's not make me a car. It's help me explore the entire conceptual space of what a car could be.
That's the key difference.
And then you have the big, flashy examples like Coca-Cola. Their masterpiece campaign caused a huge stir.
It did. They used AI-generated video to create these incredibly fluid transitions, where a Coke bottle moves through famous artworks from Warhol to Vermeer.
It ruffled some feathers in the art community.
Of course, the training data issue is a real one, but purely from a technical and marketing standpoint, it was a massive statement. It demonstrated that AI video isn't just for glitchy memes anymore. This can be high-end, Super Bowl quality commercial work.
There's also a really pragmatic boots-on-the-ground example in the notes, a company called ClickUp. They didn't make a fancy video, they just went hard on SEO content.
This is the classic SEO play. ClickUp used AI to help them publish over 150 new articles. But, and this is the absolute key to their success, they did not just copy-paste 150 raw articles. What happens?
You get penalized into oblivion. You get absolute garbage.
Right.
They used it to scale their productivity, but they kept humans in the loop for strategy, editing, and fact-checking. And the result? An 85% increase in non-branded organic traffic in 12 months.
For a mature company, that is a staggering number. It is, and it brings up this really useful term that the agency VML introduced in one of the reports we read, content stewardship.
I love that rebrand. It's such a smart way to think about it. We're not creators anymore. We are stewards.
I think it's the most healthy and sustainable framework for any enterprise using this tech. The shift is from, I must write every single word myself, to my job is to guide the machine to produce the best possible outcome.
So what did that workflow look like?
They describe it like this. Humans provide the strategy, the vision, the core insights. The AI does the heavy lifting, the drafting, the initial optimization, the structural work.
And then
And this is the non-negotiable part, the humans come back in at the end to refine, to fact-check, to add personal stories, and to remove all the robotic fluff.
they call it the 30% rule.
Yes, AI can do 70% of the work, the grunt work, the initial structure, the outlining, but humans have to do that critical 30%, the strategy at the beginning and the quality control at the end. If you skip that final 30%, that is when you get into deep trouble.
It sounds great in theory. Stewardship, co-pilot. But let's be totally honest. A lot of people are looking at that 70% figure and thinking, why don't I just let the AI do 100% and, save myself a salary?
That is the temptation. That is the siren song of scale, and that is exactly how we end up lost in the dark forest.
Let's transition to that. Because for every Mattel or ClickUp that seems to be using this responsibly, it feels like there are 1,000 faceless, anonymous channels just pumping out absolute unfiltered garbage.
This is the dark forest theory we teased at the top of the show. It comes from Lusickson's sci-fi novels, but a writer named Maggie Appleton applied it brilliantly to the state of the web.
So what's the theory?
The idea is if the open web becomes so completely flooded with synthetic content, you have bots writing articles, you have bots commenting on those articles, you have bots liking those comments, it becomes a dangerous, noisy, and hostile environment.
A place where you just can't tell who or what is real anymore.
Exactly. And what do humans do in a hostile environment? We retreat. We stop posting publicly because the noise-to-signal ratio is just unbearable. We move to private spaces, private discords, group chats, email newsletters, the cozy web.
We hide in the bushes because the forest is full of predators and ghosts.
And it really feels like that's already happening. I mean, have you tried to find a simple recipe online lately or a genuine product review?
It's a nightmare. You have to scroll past 10 paragraphs of AI-generated backstory about grandma's rustic kitchen or a generic repetitive list of product specs before you find a single sentence of actual human opinion.
That is exactly it. It's what we're starting to call AI fatigue. Readers are just getting tired. There's this uncanny valley of text now. You can almost smell an AI article before you've read 3 sentences.
Oh, completely. They're dead giveaways. The tells. If an article starts with, in the fast-paced landscape of today's digital world, I'm immediately on high alert.
Yes, or the constant overuse of words like delve, let us delve into the intricacies, or transformative, crucial, unleash, tapestry.
The sentence structure, too. It's often too perfect. It's grammatically flawless, but it lacks the natural, messy rhythm of human speech.
And one of the reports called this my favorite phrase, LM safe truths.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
The refusal to take a definitive stance on anything.
Right. It is important to note that there are many different viewpoints on this matter. It's this risk-averse, corporate-speak drivel. It reads like a press release written by a committee of lawyers.
It has no soul. There's a funny anecdote in the source material about this verification problem on dating apps.
Oh, the potato test. I love this.
The potato test. People are so inundated with bots trying to scam them that they've started using this as a screening tool.
So how does it work?
You're chatting with a match, you're suspicious, so you just ask them to say the word potato.
A potato.
Just potato.
Yeah.
Because a bot is programmed to stay on script. It wants to flirt. It wants to get your WhatsApp number to run a scam. So if you say potato, the bot will ignore it and say something like, "You are so funny, handsome. What do you do for work?"
Whereas a real human will just say, potato. Why? You're a weirdo.
Exactly. It's a low-tech Turing test for the Tinder era. We had to verify our shared humanity with root vegetables.
It's hilarious, but it's also incredibly dystopian when you think about it. But the stakes get so much higher than just a bad dating chat. The rise of these AI content farms on YouTube is genuinely disturbing. This section of the research, it really unsettled me.
Yeah, we're not just talking about spammy blogs with bad grammar anymore. We are talking about channels with millions of subscribers, like one called Bio AI Art.
This is a prime example of the danger. This channel started off posting, cute animal videos, generic, safe, easy content. Then it pivoted hard
Into medical advice.
into serious medical advice. It started using these AI-generated avatars, these fake doctors named Dr. Eric and Alina.
And they look the part. They're wearing white coats. They have stethoscopes around their necks. They look like trustworthy clinicians. But they're not real people.
They do not exist. They have no medical degrees. They're just pixels. But they present themselves with the full authority of a doctor.
And they started pushing dangerous misinformation.
Dangerous hallucinations. The standout example from the investigation was them claiming that the moringa plant, an herb, cures leaky gut.
Which is not a scientifically proven condition, let alone one cured by a plant.
Not at all. But why did they do it? To sell affiliate links to moringa supplements in the video description, they used the AI-generated veneer of medical authority to scam sick, vulnerable people into buying useless herbs.
That's where slop crosses the line into actual harm.
Absolutely. And then you have the fake news side of it, the True Crime Case Files channel. This one just blew my mind.
This is the fake murder documentary.
They created a full narrated documentary about a murder in Colorado, a man named Richard Engelberg.
A man who does not exist. A murder that never happened.
But the video looked real. It had police sirens, a dramatic narrative, a sobbing wife, all of it synthesized by AI, and it got 2 million views.
2 million.
And imagine the damage that does to trust in a community. People were emailing and calling local journalists in Colorado asking, why aren't you reporting on the Engelberg case? Is there some kind of cover-up?
So real journalists had to spend valuable time and resources debunking a complete ghost story that an AI invented.
It damages faith in real crime reporting. It damages faith in the justice system.
And it seems like no one is safe from this. There's another example from Brazil, a channel called Cres Intelligent, and it's targeting kids.
This is the stuff of actual nightmares. They started with normal hand-drawn animation, which was fine. Then they clearly switched to cheap, low-quality AI to just pump out volume. And the result is horrifying.
Like visually horrifying.
Characters with broken, mangled fingers, eyes that are floating off the sides of their faces. One source described the characters as looking like potatoes with faces that would be villains in a horror movie.
And millions of children are watching this stuff. It's like the Elsa Gate scandal all over again, but now it's fully automated.
The YouTube algorithm just sees kids' content, it sees bright colors, and it serves it up. The AI making it doesn't know it looks terrifying. It just knows it looks vaguely like a cartoon character.
And then there's the emotional manipulation. The America Talent Show channel, note, not America's Got Talent, a knockoff.
Right. They generate fake contestants with these heart-wrenching sob stories. Here's Sophia, the abandoned 10-year-old orphan with a dream.
And then the really insidious part.
They steal real clips of Simon Cowell reacting to a real singer, tearing up, looking genuinely moved, and they splice that reaction into their fake video.
So you have a fake child singing a fake song and a real Simon Cowell appearing to cry about it. It's synthetic emotion.
It is emotional theft. You are stealing the viewer's empathy and directing it at a simulation for clicks and ad revenue.
YouTube has started to crack down on this, though, right? They're not just letting it run wild.
They are, thankfully. They've started mass cleanups. They took down Screen Culture and KH Studio, which had a combined 11 million subscribers. And they're introducing new labeling requirements. If you use realistic AI, you have to disclose it. But it's a constant game of whack-a-mole. As soon as one farm goes down, 2 more can spin up because the cost of production is effectively 0.
Which brings us to the ultimate gatekeeper in all of this, Google. For a long time, the simple assumption in the SEO world was just AI content is bad, Google will find it and kill it. But the reality is a lot more nuanced, isn't it?
Much more nuanced. And I think a lot of people in our industry are still operating on some outdated assumptions here.
Okay, so what's the official line?
Google's official position, and they have been very consistent about this, is that they do not penalize content just because it was made using AI.
So the tool itself doesn't matter.
The output is what matters. Google cares about quality. They use their EEAT framework: expertise, experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. If an AI-assisted article is accurate, helpful, and serves the user's needs, Google is theoretically fine with it.
Theoretically is doing a lot of work in that sentence.
It is, because there's a huge caveat. Their spam policy explicitly forbids what they call scaled content abuse.
And what does that mean in plain English?
It means using automation to generate massive amounts of low-quality content with the primary purpose of manipulating search rankings rather than helping users.
So if you're ClickUp and you make 150 high-quality, human-stewarded articles that genuinely help your audience, you're probably fine.
Right.
But if you're a content farm pumping out 10,000 nearly identical articles about the best toaster of 2026 just to capture affiliate clicks, you are in big trouble.
That's the line. And we have hard data to back this up. A company called SE Ranking did a fascinating and very brave experiment.
What did they do?
They created 20 brand new websites and filled them with 100% raw, unedited AI content, just pure machine output.
Okay, a bold move. And what happened? Walk us through the timeline.
Initially, it worked. For the first few months, the sites were ranking, they were getting traffic. It looked like they'd found a cheat code for SEO. But then, February 2025 hit, a core update rolled out.
And the hammer dropped.
A total wipeout. Every single one of the sites lost all of their keyword rankings overnight. Google's Spam Brain, which is their own AI built to detect spam patterns, it caught up. It recognized the patterns of mass production, the lack of original insight, the robotic sentence structures.
So the lesson is pretty clear. Short-term gain, long-term catastrophic pain.
Precisely. If you build your digital house on a foundation of pure, unedited AI, you are only renting your traffic from Google. You don't own it. And they can evict you at any moment.
But you know, there's a bigger threat on the horizon than just being penalized, isn't there? It's not just about ranking lower. It's about not getting the click at all. We're talking about the concept of Google Zero.
This is the truly existential threat for many SEOs and content publishers. We are witnessing a fundamental shift from SEO search engine optimization to AEO.
Answer engine optimization. Explain that distinction.
Okay, so traditional SEO is all about getting your blue link to the top of the list so that a user clicks it and visits your website. That's the game we've been playing for 20 years.
Right. Get the click.
AEO is about optimizing your content so that Google's AI overview, that summary box that now appears at the top of many search results, reads your content and uses it to answer the user's question directly on Google's results page.
Which means the user gets their answer and never ever comes to your site.
Exactly. That is Google Zero. 0 clicks for the publisher.
That sounds terrible for business. If I run a recipe website and Google just shows you the full recipe in the AI overview, I don't get any ad revenue. My business model is broken.
It forces a massive, massive change in content strategy. If your whole business is built on providing basic, factual information, what is the capital of France, or how do I boil an egg, Google's AI is going to answer that for you. You will get no traffic. You cannot compete on basic commodity information anymore.
So what on earth do you compete on?
You compete on things the AI can't generate. Unique data, deep-seated expertise, original perspective, and highly structured content. There was a fascinating stat in the notes.
I saw this one.
91.4% of the content that's currently being cited in those AI overviews is itself at least partly AI generated or heavily structured in a way that an AI can easily read and parse.
So to survive, you almost have to format your content for the AI that's going to read it.
You have to be the source that the AI cites, not just another echo in the chamber that it summarizes. You need to be the primary source.
This transitions us perfectly into the last big section: ethics, risks, and best practices. Because if we all need to become the primary source, that means we have to be trustworthy. And AI has a huge trust problem.
A massive trust problem. And it starts right back where we began with hallucinations. We mentioned the moringa plant curing a fake disease. That's a blatant, harmful example.
But they can be much more subtle.
Oh, much more. An AI might invent a quote and attribute it to a real person. Or it might cite a scientific study complete with a title and authors that simply does not exist.
I've seen that myself. It'll give you a perfectly formatted APA citation for a research paper that was never written. It looks completely legitimate.
Right. And because of that, human fact-checking isn't a nice-to-have anymore. It is absolutely non-negotiable. If you publish raw AI content that contains a factual hallucination, you're not just hurting your SEO, you are actively destroying your brand's reputation.
And then there's the whole issue of where this training data comes from in the first place. The copyright issue. This is a legal minefield right now.
It is. If you're a big enterprise brand, you can't just use a tool that scraped the open web for its training data because you might be opening yourself up to massive lawsuits for copyright infringement from artists and writers.
Which is why we're seeing the rise of so-called ethical AI platforms.
Exactly. Platforms like Virtual, which make a promise that all of their training data is ethically sourced and commercially licensed, so you're legally protected.
And the creators are fighting back on this. I saw the Keep It Real campaign mentioned in the sources. 146 YouTubers all teaming up.
Yeah, they're demanding that these big tech companies treat them as partners in this process, not just as, free data mines to be scraped and exploited.
It's a valid grievance. If my life's work is being used to train a model that will then be used to replace me, that's a fundamental problem.
And it's not just creators who are wary. Consumers are voting with their feet or their eyeballs, too. The stats on user trust are pretty damning.
They are. 75% of consumers want brands to be upfront and transparent about their use of AI. They don't necessarily mind if you use it, but they absolutely hate being tricked.
And 55% report feeling uneasy on websites that they feel rely too heavily on AI-generated content.
It goes right back to that uncanny valley. We have the sixth sense for when something feels off, when it feels fake.
We do, and that number's probably even higher now. There was a McAfee survey that found 70% of people can't reliably distinguish a real human voice from an AI-cloned voice anymore. The tech is getting that good.
Scary. So this all leads us to the practical advice. For you, the listener, how do you actually use this stuff without falling into all of these traps?
What's the best practice?
Based on everything we've read, I think the absolute golden rule number 1 is, do not publish raw AI output, ever.
Never. That is the cardinal sin. You must always, always edit. You have to be the steward. You have to add that human touch.
What does that mean, though? Human touch.
It means adding personal anecdotes, specific examples from your own career, emotional depth, a contrarian opinion, things the AI literally cannot know because it doesn't have a body, a job, or a life.
And using it for the right tasks. Using it for research, not for the final writing.
Yes, this is so key. Use it to generate an outline when you have writer's block. Use it to find clusters of related keywords. Use it to write the tedious schema markup code for your web page.
Use it for the blank page problem.
Exactly. Let it get you from 0 to 1, but don't let it drive the car from 1 to 100.
Transparency also seems to be the other big pillar here. Just label your content.
Especially if it's meant to mimic reality. If you use an AI-generated image of a person in a blog post, just say so in the caption. If you use a synthesized voice for a video, disclose it. Trust is the most valuable currency we have left in the dark forest.
And finally, it all comes back to that workflow we talked about, the sandwich method.
Human strategy first. AI draft in the middle. Human polish and fact-checking at the end. That is the winning formula. It leverages the incredible speed of the machine, but retains the irreplaceable soul of the human.
You know, looking at all this, it feels like we're coming full circle in a way. When social media first blew up, the buzzword was authenticity. Then it all became about perfect curation and polished feeds. Now, with AI flooding the zone with fakeness, it feels like true authenticity is becoming a premium product all over again.
It's the scarcity argument. It's basic economics. When sand is everywhere, sand is worthless. When AI-generated generic content is everywhere, that content becomes worthless.
So what becomes valuable?
The diamond in the sand, the thing that is rare. And what is suddenly becoming rare on the internet? Genuine, verifiable, lived human experience.
So if you're a creator listening to this, your actual humanity is now your biggest competitive advantage. The fact that you can feel pain or joy or disappointment or taste a really bad cup of coffee, that is your strategic moat.
Exactly. An AI can describe a cup of coffee perfectly. It can use all the right sensory words, aromatic, bitter, steaming, robust. But it has never, ever tasted coffee. It doesn't know what it feels like to desperately need that caffeine at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday.
But you do.
You do. So right from that place, that's the part that can't be automated.
That's a really powerful takeaway. The machine gives us scale, but we have to provide the soul.
And we have to actively protect that soul. Because if we just surrender to the efficiency, if we let the content stewards just become content sleepwalkers, we lose the web.
We end up in the dark forest.
We end up in the dark forest just shouting at bots who are programmed to shout back at us. It's a hall of mirrors.
Okay, as we start to wrap up here, I just have one final thought I want to leave our listener with. We've talked a lot about the future of content, but I want to pivot for a second to the future of connection.
Okay, go on.
If we are truly entering an era where AI creates more and more of the content, the articles, the videos, the emails we read.
Right.
And AI bots are increasingly doing the engaging with that content, the commenting, the liking, the filtering, the summarizing. where do the humans go?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it?
If the internet just becomes a closed loop of machines talking to other machines, what is our role in that ecosystem?
Perhaps the future of value isn't in content at all. Maybe content as a commodity completely crashes to zero value because it's infinitely abundant.
They have left.
Maybe the future of value is entirely in connection. The things that cannot be faked, the trust built between two people over time, the community that forms around a shared, genuine interest, the handshake.
The handshake, I like that. In a world of infinite digital copies, the most valuable thing might just be the singular analog connection.
Or at least the digital equivalent of one. Verifiable, earned authenticity.
Well, on that note, I think we have more than enough to mull over. This has been a massive topic, and honestly, I feel like we could keep talking for another hour.
Easily. It changes every single week.
It does. But for now, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us on this SEO Deep Dive.
It's been a pleasure exploring the dark forest with you.
Hopefully we managed to provide a bit of a flashlight. We'll see you in the next deep dive.
Thanks for listening to In-Depth SEO. If this episode added a new perspective, visit indepthseo.com for more thoughtful conversations on how search really works.